Welcome to March 14th, 2023 ETAC meeting. Recording secretary, is the meeting being recorded?
Yes.
My name is Brian Germain, and I am the chair of the Environmental and Transportation Advisory Commission. I would like to call this ETAC meeting of March 14th, 2023 to order at 4:07 p.m. We have 7 items on the agenda, including the consent calendar. Recording secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Alvarado.
Present.
Chair Germain.
Present.
Vice Chair Benninger.
Present.
Commissioner Greenside.
Present.
Commissioner McLaughlin has requested an excused absence. Commissioner Rohrabacher has requested an excused absence. Commissioner Romero has requested an excused absence. Commissioner Welker? Just a moment.
Hello?
Just a moment.
Okay.
Commissioner Welker, thank you. What is your just cause excuse? You can be very general, by the way. No health issues need to be described.
Okay. Thank you.
What is your excuse for just cause? You were given a choice in the email, and I can read them off to you if you would like. Do you need me to read them off to you?
Oh, I said I wasn't feeling well. So illness?
That's good enough, yes. Thank you. So she has a
Thank you.
medical issue for just cause. Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would Commissioner Alvarado please lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
The flag's there in the court. You guys don't see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarado. Recording secretary, please describe the way the public can access this virtual meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed on the City of Santa Ana portal at www.santa-ana.primegov.com/public/portal. If anyone would like to provide a public comment, they may do so in person or call in to 714-647-5022. The opportunity to speak is going to follow the next comment. If you wish to speak by audio in public comments, please call into that number, 714-647-5022, and advise that you would like to speak. You will be placed in a holding queue, and you will be called upon by the name and/or number that you entered. If any members of the public are present at this in-person meeting, please be sure you have completed a speaker card and then hand it to me. You will have 3 minutes to speak. We will alert you when your time is up.
Thank you, Recording Secretary. Moving on to public comments on agenda items or non-agenda items. Recording Secretary, does anyone wish to speak?
Are there any people on the line? No. There are no public speakers in person or on the phone line. Thank you.
Thank you, Recording Secretary. Moving on to consent calendar items 1 through 4. Recording Secretary, do we have any Commissioner's absence to be reflected as an excused absence.
Commissioner Rohrbacher requested an excused absence. Commissioner McLaughlin requested an excused absence. Commissioner Romero requested an excused absence.
Thank you, Recording Secretary. We also recognize the request for just cause participation earlier, and we'll move forward to item number 4 on the consent calendar.
We need a motion and second to approve consent calendar items 1 through 4.
I make a motion that we accept items 1 through 4. Looking for a second.
I second that motion.
Commissioner Benninger has made a motion to approve consent calendar items 1 through 4, and Commissioner Alvarado has seconded the motion. Can we please vote? Commissioner Alvarado.
Yes.
Chair Germain.
Yes.
Chair Benninger.
Yes.
Commissioner Greensides.
Yes.
Commissioner Welker.
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Thank you, Recording Secretary. Moving on to the business calendar, item number 5, presentation on planned roundabouts and traffic calming projects. This item is informational.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ETAC Commissioners. My name is Zed Kakula. I'm with the city's traffic engineering section, and I'm here to present the item on planned traffic circles and traffic calming projects. I'd like to start off by just identifying that the city has a strong commitment of addressing traffic calming and traffic safety. As part of this effort, the city has implemented key parts of altering the roadway configuration to increase traffic safety for all users. These projects use various elements such as speed humps or enhanced crosswalks. Get it closer. However, for this presentation, we're going to focus primarily on traffic circles and traffic calming, how they're actually incorporated into different traffic calming projects. So let's start off by talking about why traffic circles. Well, the first thing is that they actually do reduce vehicular speeds, and there's 2 ways to reduce speeds on the roadway, and that is either by a vertical movement such as a speed hump or a horizontal deflection, which is what a traffic circle does. So when you have a motorist that is approaching a traffic circle, the way that things are designed, they're actually required to turn right as they go in, then steer to the left, and as they're exiting, steer to the right. It's this combination of movements that force the vehicles, or the drivers specifically, to slow down as they're driving through these traffic circles. And we have found that the traffic circles are extremely successful at reducing speeds. We've seen 3 miles per hour up to 10 miles per hour decrease in speeds at those intersections where we do have these traffic circles. But the thing that I find most critical or most important is that those crazy drivers, and I don't know what else to call them, those that are driving at really high speeds, those are the ones that are forced to slow down when they're approaching the circles. So those high speeds are definitely decreased substantially as a result of traffic circles. The other thing I want to mention is about the fact that traffic circles do enhance pedestrian and bicycle mobility. But this is probably better off described if I talk about the last 3 bullets in the next slide, which is the reduction of collision severity, as well as the reduction of conflict points. So if you look at the screen and you look at the image on the upper left, that's an image of a typical 4-legged intersection. And if you notice all those little circles, some are filled in black, some are half black, half white, or solid, those represent different areas within an intersection where vehicles could potentially have conflicts and have collisions. If you add those all up, it totals up to 32 different points of conflicts within a typical intersection. However, if you compare that with the image on the right that has the traffic circle, you could instantly notice that there's far fewer conflict points. In fact, if you add them all up, there's only 8 conflict points in a location where you have a traffic circle. The exhibits here are representative for the vehicle traffic, which actually includes the bicyclist. So the reduction from 32 conflict points to 8 actually does provide a better, safer environment for the bicyclist. There is a similar example, but I didn't include in the presentation for pedestrians. Pedestrians have a total of 24 different conflict points in the intersection, and that is also reduced by the implementation of a traffic circle all the way down to 8. Again, that's a significant reduction in the conflict points between a typical intersection and a traffic circle. In terms of accidents, there's different type of accidents, but if you look at the lower left corner and then the lower center corner, those are the two type of typical collisions that you encounter at an intersection. And those are the most severe ones because they have a high likelihood of severe injury because it does involve one or two of the cars driving at high speeds. So the traffic circle has a different type of collision pattern. So if you look at the picture on the lower right, you'll see that it's what we call a side swipe. That is where the cars are kind of merging in at the same time. And because of the nature of the traffic circle, the vehicles are approaching at slower speeds. Therefore, the risk of severe injury is substantially reduced. And this applies specifically for the bicyclists and pedestrians because they're the most vulnerable users. So by having this type of design, the risk of injury is substantially reduced for the peds and bikes. I do want to note that despite these benefits, traffic circles are not appropriate for every intersection. There does have to be an analysis to determine if it is the best traffic calming device to use for this location. And as a side note, traffic circles, we identify the locations by some of the planning documents that we've developed over the years, such as the master plans or the complete street plans. And we do have some locations that are site-specific that actually identified a safety nexus and required the traffic circle to be installed. So what type of circles do we actually have in the city? So I want to, it's a little bit different. So the first type of traffic circle we have is what we call a temporary traffic circle. These traffic circles are what we call our low-cost implementation. If you call $10,000 low cost, that's discretionary, right? It's up to your opinion, but if it saves a life, it's very low cost. So we do have these implemented as temporary implementations. The cost does not include the ongoing maintenance cost. Unfortunately, drivers do hit the delineators. As you can see, these are basically set up by just primarily striping, signs, and some delineators. And there is quite a bit of ongoing maintenance required for these temporary circles. The desire and the plan is to have these become permanent when funding does become available and prioritize any funding that does become available because these locations have been basically in a waiting list, right? They've been temporary, so we want to make sure that we complete the installation. And the residents have been asking constantly, when is this going to happen? When is it going to happen? So again, these are temporary in nature, low cost. So the other type we have are the actual permanent circles. And we have two options. One is the lower, simpler type of circle where it's literally just the traffic circle itself. The cost for this type of traffic circle ranges between $75,000 to about $100,000. And it's a combination of the actual circle itself in the middle of the intersection, and everything else is really just signing and striping that is the complementary components of this traffic circle. The one that I call that has all the bells and whistles is the traffic circles that have the circle plus a combination of bulb outs. And you can see that quite clearly on the left side. These do require quite a bit of extensive work. That's why they have a sticker price of about $600,000. But they are extremely efficient. They provide benefits to all the users. The narrowing of the street itself provides a shorter crossing for the pedestrians. And again, all of the features I had talked about, the circle in terms of reduction of severity of the collision, as well as the other benefits, make this a really cost-effective measure if we could get the grant funding. So now that we have an idea of what the circles that we do currently have, just want to show you a map. This is actually a two-part map. I couldn't put it all on one slide. It was too small to really see. But these are the locations where we currently have either temporary circles, constructed circles, or some that are planned for the future. So on this one, this map shows everything north of McFadden Avenue. Unfortunately, it was cut off from the bottom. And we have some that are considered constructed. So those are shown in blue. And they're primarily on Bush between 1st and 17th. We have some on Civic Center east of Main. And then we have some on Pacific as well as Shelton between McFadden and First Street. We also have some that are called planning, and those are shown in black dots. And those are primarily on Pacific. And I'm going to talk about that in a following slide. And then we also have the ones that are temporary, like I showed previously. And we have 3 on this map spread out in the westerly side, the northeast side, and then very bottom center. The remaining circles are actually south of McFadden, and all of the ones south of McFadden are actually temporary circles. And I do just want to highlight the ones towards the right side. There's a line of them that are all on Orange Avenue, and that's the other project I want to briefly talk about as well. So the first one I want to talk about is the Pacific Street Greenway project. That project is actually part of a much larger project that is for the Fremont Elementary Safe Route to School project. That project has various components, and this is one of those components of that project. The project is funded through an active transportation grant. We received about almost $5.8 million for this grant. And we're currently finalizing the design and expect to have construction for this project late fall this year. This exhibit here shows at least the location of the project. If you look at the, bless you, if you look at the left side of the screen, the project's limits are from First Street to the side of the screen on the right side, which is Washington. This bikeway or this greenway is going to extend an existing bikeway that is south of First Street on Pacific and extend it all the way to the Santa Ana College. One of the things I do want to point out is one of the other components of the Safe Route to School is the implementation of another bicycle facility that is going to be on Civic Center between Fairview and Bristol. So that's going to provide a connectivity between 2 different components for the bicyclists within this community in the Safe Route to School project. The nice thing is, once the bike lane on Civic Center is completed, it is now going to connect to the existing bike lane that runs around the downtown and could actually connect people all the way to the train station. In terms of the type of improvements, we ended up having 2 different type of improvements for this corridor. If you look at the red dot on the lower left of the screen, that shows the type of traffic circle that is going to be implemented, because we want to make sure that we slow the vehicles down, because this is a shared facility. So the bicyclists and the motorists share the same roadway. And we're using the type of circle that is just a circle without the actual bulb outs. And then the other thing that we're doing here is, if you look at the image that has the black dot towards the lower right of the screen, these are bulb outs that are being implemented in areas that we know have a lot of pedestrian activity. So if you look towards the left side of the image, there's 2 black dots, and there's actually 2 adjacent schools. So these 2 are located in areas where we know there is extremely high demand of pedestrian activity because the kids walk to and from school. Similarly, on the other side of the project, over by Santa Ana College on the right side, there's a lot of students that, for whatever reason, they don't want to park on campus. They do park within the neighborhood. So they actually do use that particular crossing at Pacific and Washington to get to and from school. So again, we want to make sure that we provide that reduced crossing for the students that go to the college. The second project I wanted to briefly talk about is the Orange Avenue Greenway. This is our most recent active transportation grant that we received. We applied for this one last year in 2022. We were notified that we did receive the grant late last year. So this one right now, we're currently starting to do some of the paperwork to get the process going for the environmental design this year. We hope to have the design done by 2024, next year, and then construction the year after that in 2025. We received about $5.8 million of funds for this particular project. This project has been in the works for quite a while. Orange has some of the very first temporary traffic circles that the city installed. So the community has definitely been patient while the city has been pursuing grant funding. So I'm very happy to say that we finally got that grant funding to make this project a reality. The project itself is a long stretch. It goes from Warner Avenue all the way to First Street. That's about a 3-mile stretch. And what I want to highlight here is some of the different components that were used. You could clearly see the traffic circles that are shown on both of the top image and the lower image. But in this case, we ended up using some of what is our new standard for the crosswalks. We're starting to use what we call high visibility continental crosswalks citywide. So this project is going to allow us the opportunity to start adding these higher visibility crosswalks along this corridor. The other thing I want to mention is that the actual corridor has 2 different types of bikeway facilities. Between Warner and Edinger, it's actually a shared facility, and that's why in that corridor you'll see the traffic circles. However, once Orange goes north of Edinger, the actual project itself, the street itself is a lot wider. So we're actually implementing dedicated bike lanes on that corridor between Edinger all the way to First. And there are other crossing points along the corridor. So we are adding bulb outs to narrow the crossing wherever there are dedicated crosswalks, and we know there's pedestrian crossings. So with that, I do want to conclude my presentation, but I do know one thing, that the city has been extremely active pursuing these projects for traffic safety. And we do have intention to continue pursuing further projects, looking at our master plans, see where we have opportunity to continue pursuing grant funding. And as these projects do come online, we'll be happy to continue sharing some of these projects with you. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Please, any commissioners that do have any questions or comments, please state your name before you comment.
This is Commissioner Benninger. Zeb, a quick question. A lot of complaints that I hear from people say that fire trucks and large trucks have a hard time negotiating the traffic circles and goes right through the linear. Any truth to that, or do you see that?
Yes, there is some truth to that. I know that they are designed, unfortunately, in the smaller intersections. So some of the larger trucks, like a semi-truck, can't do the turn. A fire truck can't do the turn. What they are allowed to do, and they can do, especially like the fire department, they could turn left in front of it with due care. But most of your delivery, the FedEx trucks, the majority of the larger vehicles of that size do actually fit in those traffic circles. The other thing that the traffic circles accommodate, and I should have pointed that out, they have what we call a mountable apron. So the circle is a lot smaller, and then there's a little area that you could actually drive over. And a good example of that is I take the train into the city. So from the train station, we go through Civic Center where there's a lot of these traffic circles, and the OCTA bus rides right over the apron. So I'm doing this number every time they have a circle.
Commissioner Alvarado, my question regarding the actual completion of these circles, is it a city department that's doing it, or is it a third-party contractor?
When it comes to the construction, it'll be contracted out to a construction company.
Do we have a contract existing with someone already? And the reason I ask is because of the prices that you show for these.
No, every project is actually contracted or bidded out separately. So it would be the lowest bidder that would get the contract.
And do these contractors know what our budget is for each of the circle that's created?
All the information we get from grants is public information. So if they want to see how much money we have available for these projects, they could actually do that.
Thank you for answering those questions. Do you have statistics on on the circles that are temporary and how long they've been temporary and how much they've cost to be repaired?
I do not have that information,
And-
but
and
I
I
know.
apologize, the reason I ask is I do live where there is a temporary circle and it's been there for a very long time.
Which one
And
is that, by the way?
On 15th and English.
Okay, so on that one, I do have a little bit of an update. That one is going to be modified. We have been working with the neighborhood on that specific location, and it's probably going to change to something that's a little bit different. We're going to try something new, so that circle will probably be removed. But I do know specifically at that location, it has slowed down traffic.
Yes, it's significantly, my observation is that it's been repaired several times. So I don't know what the repair costs are, because with all the repairs, we could have gone and possibly gotten a permanent one already done. That's why, so I don't know if you guys have a team that can review the costs of the temporary, how much those temporary ones have costs.
Sure, we can gather that information for you. I know we have had several of these temporary, what we call in candlesticks kind of delineation, been driven over, and so we try to keep up with those and replace them as often. But to answer your question, Commissioner, is what you see in terms of pricing or cost for these projects is really the engineer's estimate. Engineers have a way to make an estimate, and based on these estimates, they go after grants. So when we get the grant, it's that what engineer estimated for the construction and delivery of that project. Sometimes contractors bid below, sometimes above, so it depends on the market, but that's where these numbers come from.
Thank you for answering. My last, I think this would be my last question on the circles regarding the ones that are coming up. Do you have to meet a threshold for you to determine we're going to start on this circle, or is it, we're going to get a bid for 5 circles, 10 circles, 1 circle?
It really depends on the situation. What Zed is talking about in some of these major projects, it's the entire project with all the traffic devices, including circles. For some of the experimental or the pilot ones, those are individual and don't have to relate to a particular avenue or a long project. So to replace those are that specific to that site. When we bid out projects, we like to bundle those traffic circles together and bid them as one project. This way we get better pricing from the contractor. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Sure.
Commissioner Greensides, I second the concern about temporary circles just being driven over and high cost of maintenance. I think there's a specific breed of driver on these streets who see those and don't care and blow right through them, and that's why we have to keep maintaining them the way we have. And I'm also happy to see the Orange Street project is coming along, because I know that area, it's not in my ward, but that area has a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic, so I'm happy to see that that's going to be coming along very nicely. And the last point is, since this is the ETAC, and I think I had my question partly answered, it has to do with the ability of cars, specifically emergency vehicles, being able to navigate it, but why are there no trees in the circles?
One of the reasons we don't have trees, these circles are pretty small as is, and we don't want to make sure, depending upon the tree you put out there, it could potentially obstruct line of sight of pedestrians on the other side, or it could also potentially damage some of the curbing itself. And that's why we don't have that. But, I mean, we've talked about that before, and that's one of the reasons we don't do that.
I may want to add to that too. These intersections, for the most part, have manholes and sewer lines going through them. So having to put a circle, you may notice that some of these circles have a manhole that's right in the middle of it, so that prevents us from really have a tree or some kind of serious planting in these circles is the fact that they need to access the manhole, and most of our intersections do have these type of features for the sewer collection system.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alvarado, sorry, just out of the question that I had been asked regarding the temporary circles, they do not have signs in them either, like the permanent circles. So, some streets have been right of way for one direction for years, and when you put a temporary circle, people don't see the signs on the corners. And so the recommendation from neighbors has been, can you put an actual sign in the circle? Because people still blow through them, not seeing the yield sign on the corners.
That's my traffic engineer.
Yeah, no, we could definitely double check and make sure that they do. So long as we have the room to install it in the circle, because you mentioned 15th in English, and that one is extremely small. That one was a very custom design for that look. Exactly. It reminds me, we also have a traffic ellipse. It's not a circle, it's a traffic ellipse on Washington and Walnut. So these are actually designed specifically to the intersection. But yeah, we could double check all the ones we do have, and if we need to add signage, we'll go ahead and follow up with that.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Benninger. We've had these circles for a while. Do we have any data now that shows that indeed accidents have been reduced at those intersections?
You know, we're actually going through that exercise, so we should have some information in the future to share. We've been primarily focusing on the speed differential, which we do have that data available. And that's why I was talking about the fact that the speeds do reduce, the peak speeds substantially reduced. In terms of collisions, we want to wait a little bit while, and we have to go back to some of those older ones and compare to what's out there right now. But we could definitely provide that in the future.
I'd just like to echo the concern of the commission about the temporary ones. We're actively looking at all of them to replace them, make them permanent. I know the community likes them, but they don't like the fact they are temporary and they've been driven over, and they want to see, of course, something permanent. And that's our commitment, is the next couple of years, maybe we'll tackle all of these, hopefully with funding becoming available. We have plans to replace few right now, and as our grants are coming in, we'll be making more of these more permanent. So that's our commitment.
Commissioner Jermaine, my question is, or my comment is more towards studies around what are hotspots to your program and to your studies, and how you guys address the high speeds, or what you may consider as a high speed. How could the public make that complaint or make their concern heard, so that an expedited exercise could be done to calm down traffic in that area? The reason why this comes to me to speak on is because the public concern in the area of McFadden and Ettinger on Center Street has explosive car racing moments, and the high speed is bound to be an accident, although maybe most times traffic and speeds are relatively maybe acceptable to your studies, but it's those moments. And so maybe we can understand more so why such a area is not targeted based on how you guys do your studies for your roundabouts.
We are open to any request, and I think Center is one that we recently received, in fact, so that's one that's being evaluated as we speak. But some of these locations, the residents are eyes in the street, so to speak, right? They know what's going on, and when we receive some of those requests, we always address them. We also, like I mentioned, some of these other corridors are based on community-based plans that were developed. Like Orange, it really was a community that said, hey, we need these out here. As part of the complete street plan, they incorporated that, they gave suggestions. We followed up with studies to confirm everything was in fact needed. But in your case, if you have any locations that you think we should look at, by all means, call me, Nabil, let us know, and we'll be happy to look into those locations.
And if I may ask, if it doesn't come to me or to council or someone who's, you know, knows of the access to get to you, how could, you know, a resident, how could someone from the community address their concern or make that complaint if?
It's a simple phone call, and trust me, we get a lot of complaints. So there's a lot of residents out there that know how to get a hold of us in traffic engineering. Again, so long as you reach out to Public Works, the information will get to my team, and we will study it and get back to the resident or whoever the community member is with the results.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you, Zed.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, roadway markings and sign maintenance programs and its update.
I have Arturo Rodriguez will be presenting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chair, Vice Chair, and ETAC Commissioners. My name is Arturo Rodriguez, Assistant Public Works Maintenance Manager in the Maintenance Services Division. And my presentation is actually touches on some of the stuff that Zed was mentioning. So basically, all the projects that they build and install in the city, our division is responsible for the ongoing maintenance of such devices. So again, roadway markings and sign maintenance. So just again, in general, the program involves the maintenance of all the street signs and the annual restriping of all city roads. Again, why is that important? Maintenance, proper ongoing maintenance is important to ensure the orderly flow of traffic and the safety of all pedestrians and drivers. On that table before you gives a snapshot of what our annual budget is. In total, the annual budget for this program is just shy of $700,000. A vast majority comes from the general fund. Of the general fund, about $573,000 is for the roadway markings, the striping, and only $20,000 is for the replacement or installation of new signage. And a small portion is made up by the gas tax. It is important to note that budget amount of $693,000 has remained stagnant, fixed for about 10 years. So, you know, as our needs and all these projects go into the ground, the budget for the maintenance has remained the same. Also, you know, through the annual budget process, you know, as an agency, we submit an annual request, you know, for additional funding to properly maintain what's out there. But, you know, with all the other competing projects and interests, we just have not been very successful. Again, to some of the challenges, due to our limited funding, we are unable to do an annual striping of all city roads. What we are able to do, we accomplish about 1.5 million linear feet of streets. Some of our areas with higher traffic, such as our arterials, again, we do try and hit those every year. Those should be done every year, with some areas even requiring it ideally up to 2 times a year. And in that chart there, as you see, our goal for, again, the categories of residential striping, the connector streets, and the main arterials, we would like to do them every year. However, the reality, again, due to the limited funding, you know, we may do, you know, the arterials at least 1.5 years to maybe even 2 years out. Again, the type of work involved with the sign installation and maintenance, again, it requires the installation, removal, or relocating of city traffic signs, such as, you know, guide signs, regulatory, or warning signs. We receive service requests from the public via the My Santa Ana app for either lost, damaged, vandalized signs, worn out due to age, just sun damage, or as you can see in the photos there, unfortunately, due to car accidents. Every time it gets knocked out, it gets reported, we have to go out there and replace it. Another component of the program that, again, there is no dedicated funding, has to do with the replacement of raised pavement markers, or otherwise known as RPMs. Again, these RPMs are crucial, to illustrate the proper road alignment and to ensure proper safety of all drivers. Again, it's basically those yellow markers you see in the roads. Those RPMs, they're designed to last, anywhere from 2 to 10 years. But, the reality is if they get replaced, if they get worn out, they're gone, the likelihood of them being replaced in a timely manner, it just, it happens when some funding does become available. That's it. Any questions?
Commissioner Greensides, when you're going through some of the major arterial areas such as 17th, and I think specifically where it crosses under the 5 all the way out to the other side of the river where it's at Fairview, I know that those are really high trafficked areas and they get really busy. Does the teams, your department, do any research as to maybe we should reduce the number of lanes and then widen the bike paths?
If I may, before we continue with the response, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Greenside, could we lower the presentation back to for view? And that opens it up for YouTube viewers?
YouTube, they're watching the presentation.
No matter what the presentation's on?
Right now, and it's live streamed at the moment.
Would those who are viewing through YouTube, would they be able to view the room as well, or not?
Yeah, not while they're watching the presentation.
Okay, so as we're going into comments and questions, we can shift. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to watch the screen on here? Oh, I don't know if that's, or I don't know how that would be done. Because right now, YouTube is now seeing the stream. They're now seeing the room. Yeah.
Commissioner Greenside, to answer that question, that would be something I think that my colleagues in traffic would be better able to answer that. But I'm sure we could gather some data and get back to you, or unless Zed may have an update.
Commissioner Greenside, with the limited knowledge that I have, there is a plan that is county-wide that dictates what the capacity of every seat we have in Santa Ana and the speed that is associated with that street. And I believe it is called the Master Plan of Arterial Highways. Did I get that right? And based on that, we share that document with the rest of the agencies and the cities in Orange County, and the Orange County Transportation Authority, OCTA, manages that master plan. And for us to change the speed or the number of lanes of any one particular street is a major effort, and it does affect that master plan. So it's something that we don't normally do.
Thank you for that. That's it.
Commissioner Alvarado, Arturo, thank you for the presentation. I'm going over the budget. You said it's been the same one for 10 years?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Knowing that we are connected to the city council, what's your wish for the budget?
I know that our team has put in for a request, what we call them supplemental budget request for street striping and signs for about, I can't remember, Arturo, about $500,000 or so, is that?
I believe we've asked for at least $2 million additional dollars.
$2 million additional dollars for that, in addition to many other requests. I know they requested additional funds for sidewalk and potholes. So we're looking at all these requests, and we are actually prioritizing those two items, potholes and striping, for next year budget. But your assistant will really help. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so when I take it to the mayor, I can let her know that that part hasn't been increased for 10 years, and she doesn't call me all on it. Okay?
Thank you for that.
The next question I have regarding the slide number 3 was the actual years of striping. Is this an average, or do actually all the lines in the city get touched?
That's about an average. Again, the city is broken up into a grid or quadrants of 4. So again, some years one quadrant will take more than others, so it's just a rough average to a year and a half to maybe 2 years, depending on, again, on the funding as well. Again, it all depends on, if there's new projects that are in the pipeline.
Okay. And you might not know, if we start year 1, what year would all the actual lines be touched?
Right, for
And I
example,
apologize because I want to give that information to the mayor when I ask her for more money for you guys.
for example, this year, we plan to finish 3 of the 4 quadrants and potentially enter the 4th quadrant. So for example, right now, they are about to enter the northeast section of the city. We plan to finish it out before the end of the year. With the current funding, we may not be able to get out there to at least another year and a half at the earliest.
So I want to say 2 years, the 1-year project is actually done in about 2 years.
Correct.
My next question is on slide number 4, regarding, and you, hopefully you have something, vandalism versus accidents for the damage of the signs. Is there a percentage between the two?
Vandalism, when I mean vandalism, that usually means, graffiti, stickers.
Yeah.
They're about, I would say the vandalism is a higher proportion than the auto accidents. If I had to guess, I'd say it's about 70-30, I would say. 70 towards vandalism, 30 auto accidents.
And is there anything in your knowledge that would help with the vandalism, other than police involvement?
Just public outreach, getting the message out there, to take, continue that message, for residents to take pride in the city, keep the areas clean, and report the graffiti,
Thank you. On the same slide, just from my knowledge, when an accident causes damage to these signs, is that something that is covered through the vehicle's insurance or the driver's insurance? And does the city go and request that recompensation?
In the event, if there is a police report taken, and if the police report reports to the scene, yes, the incidents are reported to our risk management, and the city makes all the attempts to go after and collect the funds. But in some of the cases where it's a hit and run, if there's no party to go after, the city can't collect.
And just because I've been involved in accidents, I don't remember the police ever saying that there was a street sign damaged. So if we need to get that out to the police department, we can, right? That'll help us on our budget, right?
Correct.
And then just my last question, curiosity on slide number 5, the life expectancy for the RPMs, 2 to 10 years, that's a real span of life expectancy. Is there newer technology, or is there anything that we can let the residents know to help rate, that life expectancy for those RPMs?
Yep. Again, that number, will depend, and depending on the location of certain RPMs. Again, the RPMs on arterials, again, their usage is heavier versus a residential. Hence the large average age there. But of course, we are always, again, in talking with our colleagues in traffic, that there are new and, there's always new technology, new products out there. And, we try and make, given our limited budget, we try and, stretch that dollars as much as we can.
Thank you for answering all my questions.
Well, thank you.
This is Commissioner Benninger. My wife's only accident in her 30-some years driving took out a light post and a stop sign. And I can assure you, Commissioner Alvaro, that, yeah, they collected from us. We paid for both. I'm just, I appreciate you saying that that's an average on those numbers, because I know in my neighborhood, I know we went longer than 2 years between getting painted, although the markers in my streets seem to hold up fairly well. Technology and paint for marking the streets, have that changed? Has that improved over the years?
All of our painting is thermoplastic, means it has that reflectivity feature to it. The reason we do the thermoplastic is because of the state regulations. But as far as any advancements, not aware of anything new, but I'm sure we can do some research and see what we can find out.
If you were to change the paint, would that have to take state approval?
As long as it meets the reflectivity standards, I don't believe there's any other requirement.
And I do appreciate the fact that we don't have to scrape or plow roadways, which will keep the RPM staying there more often. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Arturo.
This is Commissioner Jermaine. At this time, wanted to raise concerns for myself and also Vice Chair Benninger as far as time restraint goes for the rest of the evening, and wanted to seek through the commission if we may post item number 7 at a future date.
Go ahead and proceed with the vote to postpone the item.
So it's going to take a motion. Does Commissioner Benninger, I make a motion that we postpone number 7 until next meeting. Second?
I second that.
Recording secretary, may we take vote?
Commissioner Benninger moved to postpone item 7. And I heard a second from Commissioner Alvarado. We need to vote on that. Commissioner Alvarado,
Yes.
Chair Jermaine,
Yes.
Vice Chair Benninger,
Yes.
Commissioner Greensides,
Yes.
Commissioner Welker.
Yes.
The motion passed to postpone the item number 7.
We'll also, I also seek motion to move forward beyond comments and updates from staff and commissioners. In a motion?
Commissioner Greensides, I'll second if necessary.
Is there a second to postpone comments and updates?
I will second that. Commissioner Benninger.
Need to vote. On that, Commissioner Alvarado,
Yes.
Chair Germain,
Yes.
Vice Chair Benninger,
Yes.
Commissioner Greensides,
Yes.
Commissioner Welker.
Yes.
The motion to postpone the comments and updates passed. The meeting is adjourned. At 5:01 PM.